People with Venus square Saturn aspect also tend to be perfectionists and critical of others, which creates a heavy atmosphere. Hello, dear astrology lovers, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alexandra, and I'm a professional ISAR certified astrologer. In today's video, we're diving into one of the most challenging Venus's aspects, which is Venus square Saturn, and what it really means for your self-worth, emotional patterns, and relationships you build with other people. I know that the most common interpretation of this aspect is that it manifests as obstacles in your love life, age or cultural differences between you and your partner, and in some cases, a delayed marriage. And all of that can absolutely be true. However, in this video, I'd like to give you a deeper understanding of this aspect by exploring it from a psychological perspective and also show you a simple yet effective Astromeridian technique that can help you work through it and redirect the thoughts and emotions that may be holding you back. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. It's completely free and it really supports my work and helps this community grow. And it also lets me know that you'd like to see more of my content in the future. So I'll keep recording. Now let's dive in. When someone says Venus, the first thing that comes to mind is love, and that's expected. But Venus is a lot more than that. Venus doesn't only represent romance, love languages, or the type of relationships we're drawn to. In your birth chart, it also shows how you relate to people in general, not just in love, but in all kinds of connections. And it also shows your ability to relax, feel pleasure, and truly enjoy life. Venus is also closely tied to money and your relationship with material things, especially since it rules Taurus. And because of that Taurus connection, it also reflects your ability to fully experience and enjoy your senses. So, beyond your love life, this aspect also speaks about you, your relationship with yourself, and your subconscious beliefs around Venus related themes, and your automatic emotional responses to everything Venus represents. So, what does Venus square Saturn aspect trigger on a deeper, more unconscious level? The number one feeling is guilt. A deep inner feeling of guilt that shows up in very specific situations, the ones that are very Venusian. For example, resting, taking a break from work, or allowing yourself any type of pleasure. And this is exactly where Venus square Saturn shows up the strongest, through an inner feeling that pleasure has to be earned, that rest has to be justified, and that you are only worthy when you are being productive. So the Venus square Saturn aspect has a lot to do with workaholics if Mars is super strong. Just recently, I analyzed a chart where Mars, the ruler of the first house, was exalted in Capricorn in the second house and in a trine with Venus in Virgo in the 10th house. So this person worked extremely hard her entire life to the point where she simply couldn't continue anymore. Both her mind and her body were exhausted. And even though Mars was in a trine with Venus, there was no real pleasure, no joy in what she was doing because Venus was in fall and Mars was too dominant. So everything became about work, effort, productivity, but no pleasure, especially with Venus in Virgo, which tends to be overly modest, constantly in service to others, and often unaware of its own worth and importance. Many people with Venus square Saturn aspect and a strong Mars in their birth chart feel like they're wasting their time by resting, like they should be doing something more productive. And here's another example I've seen. I worked with a lady who has Venus in Virgo square Saturn with Mars in Leo in the second house again. So she's very successful in her career. And she confirmed to me that She is a workaholic who allows herself very little pleasure, not only because of her ambition, her sun is also in Leo, but also because of a deep sense of guilt when it comes to relaxation, pleasure, joy, rest, or other Venusian activities. So, what can be done here? It's good to understand that your birth chart represents your overall potential. Some parts of it are smooth, while others may feel challenging. We all have this. But the good news is that you can consciously work on the challenging areas of your horoscope. And in this case, by recognizing the pattern and choosing to shift it by introducing a new Venusian activity that you will consistently stick to. We're focusing on Venus here because it's afflicted by Saturn. For example, Friday is ruled by Venus, so you can dedicate that day to doing something nice for yourself. It could be a beauty treatment, preparing a nice meal, your favorite food, buying your favorite cake, or bringing flowers into your home. These are just a few simple examples. It can be anything. And while doing this, it's important to consciously remind yourself that you are honoring Venus and that you deserve all those things. And by repeating this regularly, week after week, you begin to form a new habit and gently install new beliefs in your subconscious mind. And slowly but surely, you're healing your Venus square Saturn aspect. When this pattern of overworking isn't consciously addressed, something very interesting can happen. We may subconsciously create space for rest through getting sick as a form of justified rest that temporarily removes the guilt. So instead of reaching that point, it's important to maintain a healthy balance between Mars, which represents productivity, and Venus, which represents joy. And the next manifestation of Venus in square with Saturn is rigidity and criticism. Besides the moon, Venus is also connected with emotions and the feeling of inner satisfaction and happiness. When Venus is in a square with Saturn, the emotional flow becomes blocked, and this often manifests as rigidity in the body. So the movements are not fluid. Emotions are connected with water and with fluid movement. So when we're blocking emotions consciously or subconsciously, the body naturally becomes more stiff. And on the outside, we may appear cold and not so easy to approach. In simple words, Venus in square with Saturn often manifests as a lack of softness and social skills in some cases. Other people often don't feel very comfortable around these individuals because it's not easy to relax in their presence. So, a person with this aspect has a subconscious tendency to evaluate others and look for flaws in them, which can be felt on an energetic level even when nothing is explicitly said. And as a result, other people often feel an unconscious need to justify themselves because they sense that the focus is on their imperfections. People with Venus square Saturn aspect also tend to be perfectionists and critical of others, which creates a heavy atmosphere. It's the kind of atmosphere that feels tiring and emotionally draining, and it's as if your energy gets depleted in contact with them because the energy they carry can feel dense and heavy. There is no lightness in their perception of life, and this is often felt in the energy they emit. So, the more time you spend with someone whose Venus is in square with Saturn, the more you feel that density around them. Also, Venus is the planet of relationships because it rules Libra. So its aspects naturally reflect on the way we connect with other people, as I said already, not only in romantic relationships, but in any type of relationship. So there's often with this aspect, there is often a reduced tolerance for others, and from that comes the tendency to judge. As I already mentioned, Venus is also connected to our emotions. So, with this aspect, emotional boundaries often become huge, like a fortress. So, with Saturn involved, we build strong walls in relationships. Sometimes With this aspect, people also convince themselves that intimacy and closeness are not necessary and they escape into work, especially if Mars is strong, right? As I said at the beginning of the video. So, why does this happen? Venus represents the art of joyful living, which is absolutely not necessary for survival on this planet. What is necessary is Mars, the ability to survive through action, materialization, and securing resources for life. And because of this, people with a heavily afflicted Venus by Saturn often abandon Venusian themes and lean more into Mars, into survival, work, ambition, and developing the more masculine side within themselves. One more manifestation of Venus in square with Saturn can be neglect. This is not always the case, but if Venus is particularly weak and additionally afflicted by Saturn, there can be a tendency toward self neglect and ignoring your own needs and wishes, which reflects a lack of self worth. Venus naturally rules the second house and the sign of Taurus, which are connected to how much you value yourself. And when Venus is afflicted, there can be a lack of awareness of your own worth, which may lead to neglect yourself, from not taking proper care of yourself to an inability to acknowledge your own achievements or allow yourself pleasure and satisfaction. A lack of self worth can also bring a feeling that you're not good enough for something, that you don't deserve good things, or that someone else deserves them more than you do. For example, when you achieve something, you may tend to think it is more a matter of luck than your own merit. And this is also connected to the second house in the natal chart, not Venus only. And one thing you can do to work on this condition and shift these beliefs is an exercise from the Astromeridian technique. So you can start tapping the thymus point. It is located at the central part of the chest. That's where the fourth chakra is. It is ruled by the moon, and it represents our ability to become closer to ourselves by accepting ourselves in any condition or situation. Self acceptance is the first step in healing and changing your patterns. So you can tap here and say, even though I feel unworthy, or even though I feel I don't deserve, you can name what, I deeply love and accept myself. And you can repeat this until you feel calmer in your body. Then you can switch to Venus's meridian, which is located here. It's the second meridian between these two fingers. So you can tap and tap to change the beliefs that are related to Venus and your second house and self worth. Remember that the second house is ruled by Taurus, the sign of Uranus's fall, and it represents beliefs and habits that are super hard to change. So by tapping here and working on these beliefs consistently, you can begin to shift the deepest patterns that are keeping you stuck. So you can tap here and say, I deserve love. I deserve to rest. I deserve material well being, healthy relationships. So name everything you want to start believing you deserve, and then return to the thymus point and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you can repeat this as many times as you want until you feel that the emotion you're experiencing has shifted and become lighter and brighter. You can do this exercise on a daily basis, which is highly recommended, because that's how you install new beliefs and develop new habits. Or you can do it whenever you feel you need it. That's also okay. And the last manifestation of the Venus square Saturn aspect I'd like to share is discomfort with touch. Touch is extremely important for Venus as well as for the healthy functioning of the second chakra. If there wasn't enough warmth, tenderness, and physical affection from parents or caregivers in early childhood, the Venus's energy center can gradually begin to shut down, leading to a denial of the need for closeness. And you can usually notice this through physical contact. For example, during a hug, your body might become tense, stiff, or uncomfortable, and it's hard to just relax and receive it. And when Venus is squared by Saturn, there can be a certain distance from your own senses, often as a result of a lack of tenderness in early life. All of this is also part of emotional intelligence, which plays a key role in relationships. Sometimes, with this aspect, you may deeply desire a partner, but in actual interaction, you might come across as cold, distant, or rigid, which reflects the opposite of what you truly feel inside. But the good news is that your birth chart represents a great platform for self reflection and self work. When you recognize your blockages and patterns and then take practical steps to improve them, you're doing something truly valuable. You begin to live more consciously, you elevate the potential of your birth chart, and you improve the overall quality of your life. Today, there are many ways to work with aspects like Venus square Saturn. This can include working on the second chakra, using techniques like Astromeridian work or any other method that resonates with you. And on a daily basis, it's important to consciously bring more joy and ease into your life, to give yourself credit for your achievements, recognize your own worth, create space for pleasure, and approach others with more flexibility and less judgment. And the more you choose that, the more you begin to soften this aspect. And that's where real change begins. And this brings us to the end of this video. If you found it inspiring and useful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.